Okay, excellent. Okay, we are live, folks.
Good. The voice is good.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Folks, what's up? Check it out. You're actually checking out our first Sunday series where we're actually having a discussion panel with debate. We are live, folks.
Good. The voice is good.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. Folks, what's up? Check it out. You're actually checking out our first Sunday series where we're actually having a discussion panel with. Oh, that's because I have the live stream watching. I'm sorry. That's the YouTube delay. Okay, now it's live, just us. So cool. Just so you know, this is our first Sunday series. We're actually having candidates we're running for New York City office in the 2025 election cycle. Now, this series is important because I actually joined the third-party movement back in the 90s because I saw that a lot of times candidates would make promises and they would break them and they would go inside. So I actually ended up joining the Greens, and I actually had the only third-party independent candidate debates and forums in the 21 election cycle here in New York. I also organized some events in the 22 and 24 election cycle, including a bunch of events with U.S. presidential candidates and things like that. But I'm actually quite excited to get back here with the local candidates here. And right now, we've already recently hosted events at public housing, Fulton Chelsea Houses. We also hosted another event recently at, where was the other event? At City Hall, we had a event regarding what's going on with students. And we're actually, I believe next week we're talking about the City of Yes and congestion pricing, which may be another topic for next week. And actually, I'm very excited to see Darren on the main screen right here because disabilities advocacy has always been my personal passion. I actually haven't announced this yet, but my Actress of the Year for this year will be actually Mark Zafman, my disabilities advocate. So we may actually be scheduling a discussion panel. Disabilities are actually the second largest minority voting group in the nation, and actually a very powerful voting bloc. And, maybe a sleeper hit right there. So an important issue. So let's get back to the issue at hand. I'm going to actually have all the panelists introduce themselves. Otis Johnson was not able to make it at the moment, but he might be stopping in later. There's another event going on tonight. I'm going to introduce that before I ask my question, but I'm going to start off with Stephen Lee. It's a great honor for him to be here. I go ahead, introduce yourself, Steve.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Lee, 18 years law enforcement, NYPD.
Steve, we can't see you. All we see is your mouth.
Put your face in, Stephen.
Yeah. Thanks,
there you
Steve.
go.
Thanks.
Sorry, 18 years law enforcement, NYPD. Got to the rank of sergeant, went undercover, arrested corrupt police officers, exposed corruption, and then was trying to expose that NYPD IRB is actually smoke and mirrors, etc., etc. So making me become a whistleblower. Became a target. Got arrested. They sent me to Rikers. I'm out. Here I am. 10 years of retaliation from the NYPD. So,
Wow.
It's still corrupt. And a lot of the truth is starting to come out now. Like you can see with Adams' administration. Ed Caban and his brother shaking down places and stuff like that was the same kind of corruption that I was fighting and trying to expose. And internal affairs and NYPD kept on covering it up, and trying to attack me on it instead. So,
okay, just to provide a little bit more, information about that. In the 2021 election cycle, I was able to have a criminal justice reform panel with a former police officer who was running for mayor. His name was Vitaly Filipchenko, a guy who was formerly incarcerated, running for public advocate. And Stephen Lee actually helped me get in contact with Serpico. I don't know if you heard him, probably the most famous name in
Most famous cop around.
Look, I wasn't able to establish direct contact, but Stephen does talk to him occasionally. And, we were able to share some thoughts. What Serpico said is, police can't police themselves. And Stephen has also come to some similar, from his own experiences. They both caused a re-examination of the Knapp Commission, probably the most famous piece of legislation to address police corruption. So it's he's already been helpful for me in this series. And, his work is, right, he kind of blew it over, but he's actually dealt with some very historical figures, and he has something going on, I think, with whistleblowers.org or something like that. There may be a Netflix special on him coming out. We're going to see where that goes. So thanks again, Steve, for coming out. I really appreciate you.
Yep, no worries.
All right. John, you want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, all. My name is John Riccatoni. I am a police officer of NYPD for over 19 years. I retire in July. I'm also part of the Community Education Council in District 20 in Brooklyn, which is Bay Ridge, Bensonhurst, Bath Beach, parts of Park Slope, and Sunset Park. Thanks, guys, for being here, and I'll be asking questions soon. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna do a quick introduction for Otis Johnson, just in case he shows up late. Right? Yeah. I'm gonna share my screen right quick and show you guys something else that's going on here. Let me share this right here. Okay, share screen. Present now. Okay, so just so you know, there's actually okay. Let me share this. Brave tab. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here's actually this event that they held earlier tonight, and you can see that there's other mayoral candidates that actually attended, such as Jessica Ramos, Brad Lander, right? Alvin Bragg was there. Now the thing is that this guy Jason Flom is something called founding member of the Innocence Project, but I actually work with a lot of people who have been wrongfully convicted, and the Innocence Project hasn't really helped them. This lady Ali, a very pretty-looking lady here, she's actually the daughter of Muhammad Ali. This lady Ruth Messenger, she's not just a social justice consultant. She's a former borough president, and she ran against Giuliani in 1996, I believe, right, for mayor. So the thing is that this is a very stacked panel. This is the millionaires panel. This is the panel of the gatekeepers and the people who decide, the machine, the political machine that decide who gets to be somebody, who gets to have a voice and who doesn't. I can also say I have footage that shows myself taking Reverend Keith Gaston and Nolan Farrell to Tiffany Caban to get help with National Action Network. We got no help. And notice that when they have their talk about, once again, and thanks again, I'm sorry that Otis Johnson wasn't able to show up here, but you see that they have their event called, and I don't want to diss event because I like Dolce again. He's a great guy. They have something here called Justice Reimagined, talking specifically about the wrongfully incarcerated. There's no wrongfully incarcerated people on this panel. It's all millionaire celebrities and Democratic politicians. The fact of the matter is that it's as ridiculous as having a criminal justice reform event with no black people, or having a reparations discussion with no black people, having a disabilities discussion and having no disabled people as a part, no authentic representation. That's why I'm so glad to have police officers here today, people that were, been incarcerated, people that have been wrongfully incarcerated, to really have a real roundtable of different perspectives and ideologies to come together to really make some real progress, instead of having a circle jerk of millionaires telling us what's right and what's wrong. So thank you so much. Yeah. Now we're going to start with the mayoral candidates. Let me actually shut this sharing thing off. And yeah.
Listen.
Okay. Stop presenting. Okay.
Thank you.
So Darren, you're one of my favorites over here. Go ahead.
I'm really happy to see these two guys from NYPD. My nephew's working up in the 7-5. He's been there a couple of years. That's a tough precinct. That's a rough precinct. But thank you two guys for your service to the community. In the early days, when I wanted to be a cop, I did volunteer in Staten Island, the auxiliary, and they made a mess of the auxiliary. But that's a story for another day. But I want to thank you guys for your service. Nobody understands the challenges NYPD goes through. The officers, the on-the-street cops, they don't understand that, but I do. So my brother's a cop in Nassau because it's better pay. Yeah. And my two nephews, one works for, what is that, Metro there now? The Metro, and the other one works in Port Authority. So my future son-in-law, Port Authority too. So, I'm tied to the uniform by blood, and I'm a big supporter. You might remember, because you go back 18 years. I won't say his name because he has a disability, but there was a detective, and he lost his leg. It was with cancer. Nobody, because, detective benefits are no good. Uniform is better. I'm the guy that got him his leg. So everybody knew me because he couldn't get it. And I got President Bush to help me. The insurance company gave him his quality of life leg. So that was a big thing. So cops would come up to me on the street and say, "You're that guy." I said, "Yeah, I'm that guy." So I'm happy to be here. I'm a national advocate for disabled. That was an early career choice because having a disability growing up with one, which prevented me from being an actual NYPD. And then I had an injury, like I told you. Got an injury, then I had to file for disability. They wanted me to file for welfare. That was out of the question. I was living in Staten Island at the time. So I contacted President Reagan, and I became one of his famous memos that led me to become one of New York City's and a national advocate for people with disabilities, making all those modifications that you see. I was the guy who fought behind the scenes. I fought Koch. I fought them all. Made homebound access for people that they forced you on welfare to wait till you got your Social Security. They made you sign a paper that, excuse me, that you'd pay it back, which was fine. But if you were disabled and you couldn't appear, they would close your case. You're homebound. How can you go there? So I started homebound services, things like that. I'm a people person. I like to consider myself a patriotic American, a New York American, which is the heart of America. You know, people learn how to be an American from looking at New Yorkers. So I don't like what's going on in our city, the corruption. I know Eddie Caban. I know him a long time, and I saw this going south, and that's why I came back into the race. I was called from New Yorkers for the long-standing advocacy that was deciding, because some friends that I have that are good members of the NYPD, 35-year homicide detectives, they're in there a long time, and they said, Darren, you know, you should do this, and you will not be defeated as an advocate. But it kept sticking with me. Mayor, why go back to advocate? I mean, the advocate is the second most powerful voice. But we got so much corruption in New York. I don't have to tell you guys. NYPD, you know where it is, and we got to get rid of it. And the only way to do it is from the top down. That's how we do it. So I'm in this race to do that. I want to bring New Yorkers together. They've gotten a political climate where it's Democrat or Republican, and the basic New Yorker has been forgotten. You know, if you're not political, you're screwed. And that's not the way our Constitution was designed in New York. I've been going through it back and forth, and what they've committed was treason and high crimes and misdemeanors under the law. And I'm coming for them. But right now, the fight to win, and whoever wins, listen, especially you two guys with the experience in law enforcement, internal, that's an internal organization that works with the mayor's office, and you get to see corruption firsthand. The blue wall, I'm very familiar with it all. But when people like us stand up and we want to make a difference, we have to stay in this race together. Even whoever's doing good or whoever's doing bad should just come on over, and that's what we should do. We should look at the future of the city and start working together, because I don't deem myself a politician. I'm a damn good advocate. And I fight for my fellow Americans. I fight for my fellow New Yorkers. I got nothing but a history of success of doing that. Now, in the office of mayor, I think we can make some significant change. And I've already have a team picked of people, dedicated New Yorkers, because I don't want politicians coming in. That's not going to work for us. Look what they did to our city. I don't have to tell you guys.
So if you could share your website and other information so people could look you up, then I'm going to get to Joe
Sure.
Olney, then we're going to start with the questions. But thank you so much.
Okay.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
The website is voteaquino.com, voteforaquino.com, and you can go to the website, sign up, and donate. You know, we got to raise money. This is a fight for regular folks like us coming out. We have to raise money to beat the big machine. And that's it. So I'm happy to be here with the panel. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's your achievements are astounding. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I'm lucky to have you here. All right, let's move on to Joe Olney. Right? Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Hello, my name is Joe Olney. I'm running for New York City mayor in next year, and I have a plan for safety. The short for it is just like I know police officer working very hard on the street, and nowadays situations, Republicans ask for more police. Democratic side defund police. Actually, in my opinion, it's not about more police. It's not about defund police. It's about police do quality job. I have a question, like. Daryl, Stephen, and John, you all used to be a police officer. How many cases minimum in your city every day will be happening? Can you answer me this question? How many cases each day? Minimum, how many? Darren, go first.
You were breaking up on there. The last part of the question was?
I think he's asking how many cases, but the thing is that when you talk about a case, do you mean a report? Because there's a report, then there's a case, right? Then there's actually, right? You mean like a court case?
Yeah, that's
Not
right.
all the reports go to court, right? So
Yeah, not
sometimes it's
court.
just a ticket.
Court.
Sometimes
That's
it's, right? What do
police,
you mean case? Do you mean a case that goes to court, or
like,
do you mean
the
a
contact with some people's.
or a complaint is filed?
What is he asking me?
I'm not sure myself.
I just want to know how many cases every day, like minimum, how many cases.
How do you define a case? What is a case for you? A court
Oh, a
case?
case?
Yeah,
Or is this just like a filing, like a complaint or a
it's
report?
like everybody report to police. Police go to respond to the instance. How many? Minimum.
Oh, okay. How many police? Okay. How many times police called?
Is he asking like 911 calls?
911, yeah, 911, and police in court or something. Together, how many?
How many? Are you asking how
It's
many?
minimum each day? Yeah,
Okay,
Steven,
okay.
go ahead.
What is the question? Is the question how many reports are we taking each day?
Yeah, each day. Average, not average and minimum.
Oh God, that's
Very hard to say. Very hard to say.
Like 700.
It's very hard to say because I used to do crime analysis also, right? So crime analysis, we will filter the reports that come in, right? So let's say somebody comes in and does a report for harassment,
Yeah, I
Right.
understand it.
and then
Oh,
I
like
would downgrade it down to a violation or whatever, and it won't even be recorded, So it's like-
approximately. I don't need exactly
We're saying
the
realistically, it's millions,
millions
yeah,
each day.
yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah. There's a lot. In an hour, in 1 hour time frame alone, you would have hundreds of thousands. I would say people are constantly calling 911 for everything.
constant.
For everything. Oh, my cat is stuck behind the wall. Oh, there's a raccoon in my garbage can. Oh, come and tell my son to turn down the music. Oh, there's a guy that's mentally unfit running around in the street. They call us for everything. They call police for everything.
Okay, I understand.
Everything
Thank
is
you.
an emergency. Everything is 911. So yeah, there's like millions a day.
Okay, thank you. So I have a plan. Why I ask you this question? Because I have planned for the police department. The police encounter on street something happened. We're going to have a new plan for the police to keep police officer safe. This now situation not only made the people who against the law in dangers, and also make policemen in dangers, like Floyd case, right? The police is directly the victim about the nowadays law system. It's not about the police have more power. It's not about the police have less power. It's the police have a decent rights, reasonable rights, to deal with things happening in the street. So my consideration like this: when somebody called 911, police go there, or police encounter something, go there. First, police just keep the two parties standing there. Then directly have a monitor with a judge. If you have millions a day, probably we don't have so many judges, right? Or just a piece on, basically understand the slight crime. That the police directly have a monitor talk with, have a judge. Then police tell the judge what happened.
Sorry, if I could just for a moment, yeah. What you're talking about, these calls, they could be a violation, it could be a misdemeanor, it could be a felony. So the thing is that not all these things are classified the same way. Not all these things necessarily go to a judge. So the thing is that if you could actually this section wasn't really to get into this conversation at the moment. It's just for you to introduce yourself as a candidate, and then we're going to start with the questions. The questions are actually going to be asked by the moderators. So I understand you were trying to make a rhetorical point here. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know. You probably never been arrested, Joe. That's good. You've probably never been arrested. That's a good thing. So if you could just tell us, how could people find your website? How people could find your campaign? Then we're going to start off having the questions from the actual, people in the field, right? People like Steven, John, myself, right? Asking questions about how you and Darren are going to address these issues. Yeah. So I understand your idea, right? You're trying to protect police officers. I think
you understand, but other people don't understand. I don't have finished it yet. I don't know if other people are interested to listen or not interested to listen anymore.
Some is confusing, I'll be honest. I'll let you do it a little further.
Other people don't know.
It's a little confusing because you're saying this, you're saying cases, you're using terminology that's used in multiple ways.
That's like based on the situation. When they try to arrest somebody, when this will happen, then you actually talk with the judge. The police tell the judge first. Then other two parties cast a death to decide who say something to the judge first. Then the judge immediately have an education function. The judge need to have an education. If both parties compromise, say sorry to each other, apologize to each other, these people can go. There was no need to arrest somebody. If they kind of gotta compromise each other, then the judge will decide which one should be arrested, which one should be in court.
Okay, so
I'm sorry. Could somebody explain what is it that he's asking, or what is it that he's saying?
I'm not understanding what he's asking.
Yeah.
I mean, is he talking about the justice? A district attorney talks to the judge. The cop don't talk to the judge. The cop becomes a witness. I don't understand where he's going with this.
May I real quick?
Yeah, can you explain what is?
So we can close this out. What he's saying is he had a plan with the police where they would have a situation that develops, regardless of the situation that develops. Once it escalates, he's saying, hey, let's have the police call the judge. If it escalates to the situation where someone needs to go to jail, then we go from there, but it's up to the judge to let the police know whether or not that will happen. And then aside from that, if the parties involved then decide to apologize to each other, then it's okay. The judge will say, okay, leave it alone. We don't need to report this. That's what he was saying.
That's right. That's right.
That's ludicrous. That's ludicrous, because how many judges do you have?
That's a problem. But the police will be
No, it's not
available.
Really.
That's okay.
Hold on,
but
Joe.
If the judge is available, let them go.
Let me explain why it's a bad idea. One, you don't have enough judges.
That's not a problem. If we don't have enough judges, we have as many as possible.
Okay.
And this is a good solution.
Excuse me. I'm just gonna cut in right. I'm just gonna cut in right
Not a
quick.
good solution.
The thing is that, the people who are the moderators here are experts in their field in certain ways, right? So the thing is that, right? I know, Joe, you mean well. I really appreciate your getting involved. I'm not saying that your issue has some value worth discussing, right? But really, the moderator is supposed to be the ones asking the questions and really driving the discussion. This time is really for you to introduce your campaign. So really, that's, thank you for introducing your campaign. If you want to introduce your website or anything like that, then I'm going to move on to Javon, and he could introduce himself, right? But Joe, do you want to say anything? How can people find your campaign, your website? If someone else believes in what you're saying, then they can go and follow you and.
If you can search Google, Google for Joe Aouni. My name is here. Search Google.
Okay.
There have LinkedIn, have Facebook, have YouTube, have Instagram. Almost have everything. But most important is my campaign website. My campaign website is hard to find, but from the Facebook you can easily find.
Okay.
And the LinkedIn.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joe, and I appreciate you participating today. Javon, actually, he dropped off my screen for a second, but definitely I love this guy a lot, too. He's very cool. He actually has some law enforcement background as well.
Yeah,
he's a male candidate. Go ahead. Introduce yourself, Javon.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
On?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good.
Thank you. My name is Javon Terrell Ross. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm from California, and I did a few years in the Marine Corps. I did some time in the federal law enforcement arena with the Department of Justice, and I also have been a contractor with the government. And now I'm in school on a little break on medical leave right now, and pursuing the office of mayor in order to address many of the issues that you all have brought up. So I'll just leave it there for now. and I'm ready to engage. And I thank all of you for being here and taking time out of your schedules to engage with us. So thank you all, and God bless each of you. I'm ready.
Thank
Can
you.
you share your
Yeah.
contact information, your campaign website, things like that?
Sure. My campaign website, you can find it through the CFB website, through my name, which is Javon Terrell Ross for NYC Mayor 2025. My website where you can get to know me is called tryagain.org. It's TRI hyphen, like the minus sign, the word again, AGAIN.org, O-R-G. And you can reach me through that.
Awesome.
Thank you for your service, brother.
My honor.
Appreciate you, man.
It's my honor. Thank you.
My nephew's a Marine. He just got promoted to colonel.
Semper Fi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. He's did 20 years already. He's 43. He went in at 20. We're so proud of him.
We probably served together.
Yes. Amen. That's great.
All right, cool.
Right.
So now we're going to cut to the moderators. They're each going to ask a question. They can handle that any way they want. So go ahead. We're going to start off with Steve. Kick it off.
What made you guys want to run? All right, so Darren, you're from Staten Island, right?
Originally, no, I'm originally from East Harlem. And then, you get married, you move. I went to Queens. I went to the Bronx. The only place I never lived was Brooklyn.
Okay. So my question to you is, defund the police. Agree or disagree?
Say that again. The people of the
Defund the police. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, we disagree with that. Are you kidding me? You don't defund the police. That was the biggest scam ever. That was a disgrace.
Wait. I'm not finished yet.
Okay.
So, defund the police as in, you don't have police officers respond to jobs that they have no professional training in, such as homelessness. Police officers are not trained to be social workers and learn, all these services and stuff like that. Those encounters. Police officers approaching mental illness jobs. There's a mental hygiene police out there. Why NYPD responding to that? Or other administrative stuff such as get my cat out the window, whatever, stuff like that. You don't think cops should be just concentrated on what they were trained for, which is being, crime fighters?
Patrolmen, officers, police officers. I agree 100%. In fact, when I ran in 2017, one of the things I was going to do was stop cops from dealing with mental illness. That's a challenge that they're not trained for. You're going up against mental illness. It can have a bad turnout. You know it, and I know it, because it comes to a police officer. Now he's got to defend himself from a guy or a woman who's potentially deadly to not only the police officer, but the people around them. That takes a special skill set. An NYPD police officer patrolman, they're not set for that. And whenever they're sent to that, I always disagreed with that. I would set up a whole different program for that.
Yeah. Okay, so then you're in favor for defund the police?
Not defund. Oh, no.
You take it, when you stop cops from responding to those kind of services.
No.
They're
Not stop them. Put in something else in place of that. A cop cannot go and deal with a mentally ill person. That's a medical area.
Right.
And that could wind up bad. Both of the two people can die in that situation. So that's a situation that should not have a regular NYPD patrolman, crime fighter on the street dealing with mental illness or homelessness. They're two different breeds. And that's not what they're trained for.
You to respond to the jobs along with another agency that be trained to go to that kind of job too. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, yeah. And one of the things, because I'm a national advocate for disabled cops, a 9/11 survivor, the things I've done for police officers and the disabled, yes, we need a different type of team. An advocate shows up for the cop and the individual. Absolutely. Because we have to protect two individuals. It's mental illness. There are mental illness that don't harm themselves. But generally, mental illness, they wind up killing themselves. Like the 22 veterans that kill themselves every day from PTSD, which is another form of mental illness. We don't send police officers into that without proper, and listen, we can retrain police officers in this area. Then they'd have to get like a PhD. But, that's a whole other area. So if we send someone with them to defuse it, then the cop can do his job. I wanted to develop things like tranquilizers.
My question is, why is a cop going to that kind of job in the first place? Just send whoever you're going to train to go there.
But that's the system setup. So we have to change the system. That's what I said. We have to change the whole dynamics, because you show up, you get a 911 call, but you know this as a cop. Listen, my brother, my 2 nephews, and my son-in-law. This is the question every day. Mental illness is not your area of specialty. It could turn out bad. So we got to set up a whole new dynamic with an agency that shows up to start to contain it, depending on what the call is, So we have to contain the situation. But a police officer, it winds up in a lawsuit. The NYPD gets sued because they violated ADA rights, because a person mentally ill didn't do it of his own accord.
No, the NYPD is going to get sued regardless of whatever you have in place. NYPD is always going to get sued, because it's an easy target, and the city always freaking plays out.
I think you guys, I just want to make sure that all the cans get a chance to answer. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm going to stay out of it.
So my question to Darren is, do you agree, yes or no, cops should be going to these kind of jobs? Yes or no?
Cops shouldn't be going to these kind of jobs for mental illness. No, they should not.
Right. So you're defunding the police in that area.
I'm not defunding. I'm funding an area that helps police deal with that,
right.
so that they do not compromise the victim, and they don't become victims. There's a way to handle it. As an advocate of 40 years, you don't send a cop to help a disabled person.
I think
it may be a potential crime scene, but you can't do it. It's just not right.
Okay, if the cops are not showing up to the jobs anymore, why are you still giving them funds to go show up at the jobs?
No, I'm not giving them anything. I didn't get in there and restructure what Eddie Caban and Eric Adams broke. When I get in there, I'll show you how I fix it.
When you're a mayor, you have to allocate funds when you're a mayor. Do we agree on that?
Allocate funds that handle that specialty. That's a specialty. That's like a detail. You understand? That's a specialty. That's mental illness.
You would take the funds that you already allocated to NYPD. Let's say it's $300 billion. Right, or whatever.
No, I would get additional funds. You're going down the wrong road. I'd get additional funds for the special needs that would come from another area, because it's disability.
Yeah,
the disabled person who created the ruckus that becomes a potential crime.
Because Darren's saying like he doesn't have to defund the police. He could actually fund another armed branch of the police that's better trained to handle mental illness.
I would get more funding. I wouldn't defund the police. That's just dumb. I would get additional funds. NYPD is underpaid to begin with. We have to talk about increasing their pay and increasing the size of the police force. You got 8.5 million people and 34,000 cops. That's just not enough.
That's fine. I think he answered fine, right? Yeah, but let's give Joel only and also Joanne also a chance to answer this question.
One second. I agree. Yes, NYPD is very underpaid.
Very underpaid. And I will change that.
What is increasing budget funds in responding to mental illness how's that gonna increase NYPD officers' pay? No, that goes straight.
Okay, you're taking this down a different road. Listen to me. Getting cops paid more, like Nassau. Let me ask you a question, Stephen. David, does a Nassau County cop deserve more money than an NYPD cop? Of course not. But they get more. I know, my brother. So I'm trying to say one thing. Your increase of pay that I would put in has nothing to do with the mental illness. The mental illness, I would seek additional funding and then special training to work with another agency that works with specially trained officers to respond to those ADPs. Okay? So I know what they are. Emotionally disturbed. I get it. You're not listening. You're thinking I'm the enemy. I'm not the enemy.
No,
I want NYPD to be honored and respected. We're talking. I'm a family member to the uniform. I was at Mia Sotis' funeral. Okay? It was a horrible tragedy. That shouldn't have happened. A mentally ill man killed her. because they released him too soon. He wasn't stabilized. That was the governor's fault for cutting back Medicare. See, there are other dynamics here that I know as an advocate that you don't know. Okay, and that's what caused the problem. So I'm going to add funding. And there isn't a person who would disagree with me, especially the president. I'm going to add funding and build NYPD stronger, to bring it the way it used to be. It was a strong force. So we need more cops, more money, and we need additional programming to deal with the homelessness and mental illness. That's a whole different area that we can expound and make NYPD a little bit more, in this area, a little bit more vested. Because you can't just send a cop cold out of the academy to go into a mental illness situation. It's just a bad move, and it'll have a bad turnout.
He doesn't have to agree or disagree. I think you guys have a lot of similarities on a lot of the issues right here, on a lot of the really things that matter. But, if the definition and stuff, that's fine, right? But we're not here to argue and to make someone...
No, absolutely
not. We're here
not.
to learn about their positions. So let's ask this question of Joe. Let's ask this question of Javon and see where they come up with it. I personally like Darren's answer, but either way, right? Yeah, like I ain't mad. Like, you're still my guy, Steve, but I like Darren's answer. But it's just me, though. Like, that I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong here, right? I think you guys are very similar with your answers. You both see. Like, I don't want to take any more time.
Hey, Stephen, I got a question for you, just off the chain, because when you said something, you said they arrested you. Did they take your pension and everything away from you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if I win, I'll reinstate you, and we'll clear that, because I don't like corruption. I don't like it. And we have to fight. You were a crime fighter. They put you in pot, and then they made you the scapegoat. I'm not down with that. I'm a real New Yorker, man. I grew up in the streets of Harlem. I could have went 2 roads, okay? I had a very colorful family on the Italian side, okay? So, but I went this way. And, I like you, Steve. I like your courage, okay? But to understand, I want to make it better. And that costs more money. When we take away money from a program, it screws it up. But I'm real sorry what happened to you, especially after what you said that you did. And that's just dirty.
I appreciate your sympathy. And I appreciate that you would you'll correct the wrong.
Absolutely.
I agree with your idea of bettering and making the police department a stronger unit and more efficient.
Right.
But allocating the funds correctly is how you do that. If you want police officer morales to go up and want them to be happy and to go into work, then you have to change the work environment.
Absolutely.
Okay? You have to give them a salary that makes it
absolutely
appreciative to them. So you give them so you raise their salaries directly, giving them funds, giving the NYPD funds into mental illness that combating mental illness makes no sense.
Maybe you didn't understand it. Maybe I didn't express it clearly.
Into the cops' pockets,
No. Maybe you didn't understand what I was trying to say. Let me readdress that. In addition to raising the cops and giving them a decent pay for putting their life on the line every day, I want to set another program to get additional funding to get a better grip, because NYPD is all they have to respond to FDNY. And that's just not good, because it winds up bad. Setting up an additional unit with the support of NYPD, some mental illness professionals, on how we're going to tackle this at the best way. I mean, I had 1,000 ideas, from restraints, because I look at it as an advocate too. Because look, people are people. Mental illness, nobody chose to be mentally ill. And you know it as a cop, and you know it as a veteran. Listen, when they're out there on the edge, they didn't go there by themselves. It's a mental malfunction in their brain, and what they need is help. I'm trying to put a solution in place that works for everybody. In addition to my desire to help NYPD, I don't think Nassau County cops should get more money than NYPD cops when there's more crime. Well, now today with those gangs in Nassau County, there's a lot of crime there too. And crime is bad. Just crime is bad completely. But I think when you go with this pay, the starting pay for NYPD is ridiculous. I think that we got to give them decent pay and a respectable increase. and I'll sit and talk with people to do that. What's respectable? I mean, I'm matching it to Nassau County.
All right,
You know.
Darren, we're good. We're
Okay.
good. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's just I got to go soon too, and
Okay.
Joe and JTR didn't even get to speak on that yet. So
Okay. Go ahead.
let's be fair. Let's be fair. Joe. All right, Joe is not there. JTR.
All right. So can you please clarify your question for me?
Do you agree with defund the police as in taking away money that's allocated to police officers in areas where they should not be responding?
All right. First of all, before I can make a decision on whether I'm going to defund anything, I need to understand like the full picture. So I don't have enough information to make a decision on whether or not I'm going to come in and just right away defund something. But I will say this, I do have this question. And that is, what is the reason and who is authorizing them to show up to places where they shouldn't be responding to in the first place? Who's giving that okay for them to do that? So whoever the dispatcher is, it sounds like there's an SOP issue where police should know better than to respond to calls that do not fall under their jurisdiction. So that has nothing to do.
That falls under the mayor.
That falls under the mayor, right? So then we need to have a system put in place where we can make sure we audit and monitor and regulate what calls police actually respond to. So that will help us figure it out that in the first place.
The time right now, they respond to everything.
So what would you want to happen? What would you want to see happen? That's my question. What would you want? What would you want the mayor to do?
I believe police officers should not be responding to these jobs.
Right. So what would you want?
You have volunteer police officers which are called auxiliary officers. You also have, like Explorer programs and everything else. I believe that if there's some community issues or whatever, it should be going to somebody in the community that handles it. It shouldn't be, everything should not be a 911 call. Everything, most of the calls should be
Circumvented.
311 calls, right? Like I had emergency calls to people's houses for domestic violence calls, and his mother telling me to ask her son to turn down the music. And it's just stupid calls like that. And I worked in a busy house. I worked in 6-7 precinct, East Flatbush in Brownsville for 8 years. And it's a busy house. Okay. So for me, from going from one gang war shooting on one end of the precinct and then flying up to the other side of the precinct just to tell somebody's kid to turn the music down is one, dangerous to us, and because you're flying back and forth, so it creates a dangerous situation going back and forth. Accidents happen and stuff like that. And
hold on one second, Darren. There's a lot of. Hold on one second, please, Darren. There's a lot of feedback. Can you mute your?
Where is it?
I got him.
Okay. Good.
And so for me to be up here and then down here for the next job, it's not fair. It fucks up your health. Excuse my language. But that's why I'm really highly against police officers responding to jobs that they shouldn't be responding to. They should just be going out there to fight crime.
I understand that, and I can agree 100% with that. There should be definite regulation on what calls should be responded to, and there should also be a system in place where we have teams that can respond to certain calls where it may not be a crime, but there still needs to be a security element there that can handle something if it did escalate and develop into something else. And that's a different situation that kind of goes back to what Darren was talking about that you said you agreed to. But other than that, I think I may have answered your question in totality. If not, go ahead and let me know if you need more.
No. So you agree with also defunding the police in certain areas and reallocating those funds to specialized units that should be responding to that instead, correct?
No, what I'm saying is I'm not going to agree to defunding anything. I want to understand the budget before I make a decision about funds. But without touching the funds, we can regulate where they respond to and how they respond and what they respond to. We don't have to touch the funds to regulate how police respond. It's all about repurposing, restructuring. Hey, look, this call requires this requires
You
that.
have the same stance as Darren, basically.
Excuse me?
You basically have the same stance as Darren.
No, I don't.
No,
We have different stances. I want you to, if you're going to quote me on what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, I'm not going to come in and defund anything right
But you
away.
get a better understanding of things.
Right.
Then
But in terms
you
of
wanna-
ensuring that police don't respond to calls that they don't need to respond to, that requires nothing with funding. That just requires someone saying, let me make an intelligent decision and say, hey, we're not responding to that. We're going to focus on this instead.
Right. All right. I agree with that part. But then what happens to the funds that they're already getting to respond to that kind of call? What will you do to those funds?
When you say that they're receiving funds to respond to a certain call, I disagree. A police officer gets paid a daily rate. And am I right or wrong? Does a police officer get a daily rate or a salary?
I'm sorry. When I say police officer, I meant the NYPD, the system, the job, police, right? The unit.
I understand that. I understand there's a budget. Hear me out real quick. Hear me out so we don't have to go back and forth. Just hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
I understand NYPD has a budget. They
Right.
get a budget. I'm not. All right. That budget takes care of everything that happens that year or however many years ahead.
No, incorrect.
Listen, I'm speaking hypothetically, okay? I
Okay.
haven't been in that office. Hear me out.
Okay.
You get a budget.
Uh-huh.
For a certain amount of time. This is the money you get for however long it is, whether it's 3 months, a year, 6 months, you get a budget, correct?
Okay.
Are you following me? This budget that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
All right. So now we have this budget. It's already allocated. The police are doing their job according to the budget that they had been given, right?
Right.
So what I'm saying is that money has already been allocated. So if I'm a police officer, you're a police officer, I'm coming to work. Whoever's in the NYPD, you're going to go to work and get paid. Regardless of what you do, you're going to get paid when you clock in. If I drink coffee all day long, I'm going to get paid. If I go fight crime all day long, I'm going to get the same amount of money. So it doesn't matter what call I'm responding to, I'm going to get paid the same amount of money if I go to work that day. So what you're asking is an invalid question. You have to say, hey, look, can we go in here, look at the budget and figure out where the funds need to go with the budget that we do have? And then if we figure out that we need more money or we don't need as much money as we have, then we can figure out if we need to do something else. Do we need to bring more money in for other programs, or do we have enough money to increase our training in another department? That's what you need to understand where I'm coming from. I'm not saying anything like Darren or anybody else. I'm saying my own thing, and that's how it needs to be kept.
That makes sense to me, Javon. And just so you know, these answers are going way longer than I'd actually. Really, it's supposed to be 2 minutes per question, right, per response, and then 1 minute for to answer or to wrap up things. It's not really supposed to be discussion back and forth to fight for defund the police versus not fighting to defund the police. We got other moderators that are going to be presenting. Otis, I'm going to have you up in a moment. But also, John's running out of battery. We cannot just keep going on and on and on and on like this back and forth. That's not what this is about. We're here to answer a bunch of questions. Look, Steve, I really appreciate you being here, but we need to really just move through these questions, all right?
All right, then move on.
So I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I want to give Joe a chance to respond, right? It's a decent question, right? And it's actually a question that a lot of people know. I do actually agree with the people who answered, right, that the definition of what defund the police is not really 100% agreed upon. But I do know that you support defund the police, Steve, and that's fine, right? And other people don't support it, and that's fine too. But yeah, once again, you can ask it for Joe, and you can ask for some, but try not to let it go on this long. Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, we need to get to the other moderators. Go ahead, Steve. Just ask Joe, and then thank you so much.
Joe, you can do it?
Joe, are you here?
Nothing. Okay, so next, move on.
Right. No, wait a second. Before we go to Nick, right? Yeah, I know Nick's running out of battery. Actually, Otis Johnson is here. He actually has his own, and once again, a lot of these moderators are actually people that I work with. They've been through great unfairness. Once again, Steve came out of lockup, punished for actually blowing the whistle, and emotionally damaging. Otis Johnson just got in. One of the highlights of today's show, the longest wrongfully incarcerated man in New York State history. I hope John's phone battery can last just a little bit longer. Otis, can you introduce yourself right quick, and then, and I'm going to have John shoot his question, and then I'm going to let you get your question. But I know you're in the shelter and stuff. I don't want you to lose your connection and stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm cool. Yeah, I just got out of shelter about 5 months ago, so I'm in a studio apartment now.
Oh.
But my name is Otis. My name is Otis Johnson, and I did 42 years for a crime I didn't do, just because I had a tan jacket on. All right, and when I get out, I went to a Fortune Society in Bellevue. So I don't know how long I got to talk, but I try to make it short as possible. But now I'm starting my own nonprofit organization to help people like me that was in prison and came out. All right. And I see myself that a lot of people, I just talked to a brother that came out about 3 weeks ago. He also came out and he didn't have a birth certificate. So I forwarded him to Exodus. All right. And that's where I got my social security card, my SSI, my birth certificate, and other things that they helped me too. Fortune Society, I found out 3 organizations in New York City is one of the best affordable housing or shelters. That's Fortune Society, Exodus, and Osborne Association. All right, they help people. And that's why I'm expressing that, people should go to them when they come out of prison or be forward to them. I also have a nonprofit organization to deal with reentry. Matter of fact, the organizations I talked about was reentry program to help people come out of prison. And I have a special program which is a part of anger management. But what makes it special for my anger management program, I teach the physical and the mental. All right. That means meditation and Tai Chi. All right, I teach. So they can have not only the physical and the mental, but also the discipline part. And I found out by doing meditation and Tai Chi that it also helped with mental health because it deals with the spirit and the mind. All right, to help people. And right now we have a lot of problems with post-traumatic stress. Like soldiers come out of prison. Soldiers come home from war. They also have post-traumatic stress. And prison has the same thing that make people fall into post-traumatic stress issues and they send them straight home. And it's also very hard when you also did 10 to 40 something years in prison and come home and have to go to a shelter and you don't know what kind of shelter you go to and you get $40. I got $40. My criminal background, which was my charge, and a ticket when I came out. And a lot of people are doing the same thing. They have information for reentry, but the reentry status of people coming out of prison in New York City is a book called Connection. And most of that information is like, let's say 10 years old, so you might get a Connection book that says 1995 or 1999, not 20 or 24 or 2023 or either one of them that have. So we have a big problem when we come out of prison. And our families also go through doing time for us or with us, all right? Because they got to make them traveling. They got to get us on the phone. They got to send us packages, or they supposed to send us this stuff because we are their sons, their daughters, their husbands, and all this. but the family go through the same thing we're going through. I'm talking a little bit fast because I got in late, and I apologize also for that. But there's many things that we need funding for right now, you know, for a reentry program and a better mental health program. I didn't understand the part about bipolar. Now I found out that a lot of females are getting bipolar. And it's young females. I'm talking about teenagers.
If we could, before we go off from the bipolar thing, you did mention a couple things I just want to get to right quick. One of the things that you said was supporting your fund right there. I believe it's called Heft. It's actually I'm planning on helping him working with his website. I don't know if you have a Cash App, but if you want to, once again, I do have the DGL7 Activist Coalition on Facebook. As soon as he puts his funding up information, and as soon as we get the website up, I will post that link on my website on the Facebook page.
I appreciate
How
it.
can people contact you directly if they want to get involved? Once again, he's had millions of views on his work, as in terms of being wrongfully incarcerated. I believe several documentaries have been made about him. He's also supported by Yusuf Salam, and also just one. I also want to inject one more thing because we were talking about the defund the police thing. I was personally upset when I heard this. I don't want to make any enemies, but the thing is that Otis Johnson, they have him on a task force, and I'm glad he's on a task force. I'm glad he's doing something. But when people, tell me if I'm wrong. When crazy guys are in the park, right? They ask you as a volunteer, as an old man who already suffered in his life, to volunteer and go and talk to the guy and have him calm down and stop his stuff. You're an old guy. That's dangerous. You know what I mean?
I know.
And they're asking you to do this? What?
Yes.
So hopefully defunding the police, right? And I'm not saying, right, they don't take the money and then push it in towards, dang, like, Otis is very old. He's already suffered a lot, you know? Yeah, I know he knows Tai Chi, but come on. Like, he's going to be taking care of the... Yo, come on, man. It don't make no sense to me. Like, that's just me. So this guy, he should be helping, I think, to develop policy. He's talking about a lot of depth of understanding of, like, you know, like 20... That was a great thing, right? People are going with the ID from 1999, then they come out 2023, and there's this huge gap. And by the way, one of the big documentaries is Otis is trying to find his family. It's so tragic. He lost track of his family while he was in prison. So sad. So that's a big part of his story. He didn't mention it, but he doesn't have a family yet. So please help him find his family.
Yes.
So thanks again. Yes. So now, Otis, how are you doing? So you're at home. You can stay on the call and all that, because if not, I'm going to switch to John. Let him ask the question because he's running out of battery.
Yes, I'll stay on the call for a while.
Thank you so much, Otis. It's just such an honor to have you here. All right, John.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. By the way, Joe, you still here? Joe Alney? Did he drop? Okay, either way. All right. So, John, are you ready to ask a question? Thanks for sticking on. I'm glad your battery held up. Let's go.
Thank you. I would like to know where you stand on mental health with perpetrators. A lot of deaths could have been avoided if they would mandate mental health psychiatric assistance. Take, for instance, just recently, the homeless man that killed 3 people on the street, or a Coney Island mother that drowned 3 of her children. What would you do as a mayor?
Who's that question for?
Darren.
What would I do as mayor? Well, as a big advocate for that, when they killed Mia Sotis, that man should have been stabilized. What happened was, I'll tell you what happened because I know, the funding that they get for disability, they took some of that fund out. That was a separate fund for mental illness, and it was used. So Medicaid didn't keep that man in there. They wanted you to believe he was a sniper, he was ready to... It was none of that. It was a mentally ill man that wasn't stabilized before he left. So part of that mandate, I will make them stabilized. Mental illness is a serious disease. I want to know that they're safe for themselves and they won't harm others. That's a given. That's a whole entity in itself under the mental health program that I would have. But you won't see mental illness on the street, you know, because it's very passionate for me for 2 reasons. Mia Sotis, they were friends of mine. Number 2, coming from a military family, 7 generations, the 22 veterans that kill themselves every day. This is the worst form of mental illness. We have to get a grip on it. We can. We're just not giving the individual services that are needed. These are internal problems. As mayor, I will make sure that we will have funding for that, and it will be allocated properly. And I want a perfect balance that person is not being released. You know, we're going to have it through you don't want to, you see, it's a very touchy area because constitutional rights belong to all of us. Mental illness is a condition that you're not yourself. So we have to have like a hearing. I don't like to keep a public record of somebody's mental illness. That demeans them. But we have to have an internal record that says, wait a second, you're going to go before the judge and a panel of doctors are going to be there and they're going to clear you. And that's that. So we have to do it. But believe me, there will not be any mental illness on the street, and it's not an NYPD situation. They can be there, contain the surrounding area, but not the immediate response to that individual. They're just not qualified. It just puts them in a bad place, and it could wind up very bad. We've seen it in the past, and I won't allow that. I won't allow my cops to get hurt, and I won't allow the mentally ill person to get hurt. So putting a program in place that protects the public and our police officers and our FDNY. I'd make FDNY paramedics respond with some additional training. And like I told you on another show, I'm going to utilize the auxiliary police. They didn't get as much respect as they should, but I'm going to put them in the training academy to give them, because here's why. They volunteer for free. So let's train them and utilize their gift to the city of protecting the community. So we can revisit that. It's going to be a new generation when we take this mayor's seat, and there's going to be a lot of new and creative ideas, and that's what we're going to do. But I'm going to take care of that. That's a given, because I know it hits home to me and I understand it. I have a son that has mental illness. So listen, it's very personal to me.
I also just want to bring up that $850 million from Thrive money from Mayor de Blasio and his wife was unaccounted for, and not one politician. I'm not even talking about assemblyman. I'm not even talking about a city council. Not one politician is trying to find out where this money is. They never did an audit, right? But it's really concerning, because while that time was going on, people were getting gutted like fish on the train stations. They were getting gutted everywhere when all this money was disappearing, and nobody said anything.
Well, I said on a prior show, I didn't forget that. Look at it this way. That's our money he took, and I'm going to get it. But I don't want to elaborate on it too much, because you know the dangers that could come from that. But make no mistake, we're New Yorkers. He stole from us. We want it back, and we're coming for it. He dyed his hair. You know that, right? He dyed his hair. He's still in Brooklyn, but he's going undercover. That's not going to help him. It's not going to help him. And Bloomberg, who does he think he is to take 3 terms when we voted for term limits? The city council flipped because they got paid. Let me just say this, and I said it on another show. I'm putting in a transparency office that watches local government, that watches me and the city council. No more corruption. We're going to put like a NAB commission for the mayor, the deputy mayors, and the city council, because they're running our money, and we got no transparency. What they say is law? No. With the New York Constitution, I spent days reading it and doing it in spaces. People ask me because I'm a New Yorker, and the power of that Constitution is within you, within me, and with everybody here who's a New Yorker. They disobeyed the law. The law of the land is the Constitution, and I will enforce that. I assure you, I will enforce it.
Joe, you're up next for the question. Did you hear it?
Yeah. My plan is like this. When any police met with a homeless person, first contact with a doctor, a mental health doctor. The doctor should go there. Any homeless. The doctor side, the homeless has a mental health problem, his judgment like this, then send him to go to hospital immediately, call ambulance. If it outside this guy, no mental health problem, then send him to shelter, provide him a house or a room that enroll to the community again, find a job. That's my solution. Very simple. Any
Okay.
questions?
JTR, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please, one more time.
I would like to know where you stand on mental health, where perpetrators, a lot of deaths could have been avoided if they would mandate mental health psychiatric assistance. Take, for instance, the homeless man that killed 3 people in Manhattan on the street by stabbing them, and also a Coney Island woman killed her kids by drowning them. What would you do as mayor?
It's a great question. And my answer to that is simple. We need to have what's called the buddy system program. We need to implement what's called a buddy system program. And that is when people come out and they're getting ready to be reintroduced into society, we need to have well-trained personnel that can handle any type of situation, right? That are willing to hang out with people as their friend, right? And so you have this transition period where you'll hang out with a team of individuals who will be your friends. Every 24/7, you're covered 24/7. And as you go through this transition period, you're monitored and you get this help, and everything is just kind of done together. We make sure things are coming along and you're getting along with you're transitioning well, basically. I don't want to, I don't need to talk about it. It's easy to understand. You have friends helping you acclimate, right? And then as that time goes by, you can either keep that in place and have check-ins, maybe hourly check-ins, maybe daily check-ins. You start weaning that person off if you choose to wean them off. It's all up to that system, right? And the thing is, when the system has said, okay, we've done this transition period, this person has had teammates or the buddy program for over a year now and no issues have happened. We want to give them a little more tether. All right. Well, this is now the tether. And this is what that situation looks like. If now a situation does develop, who is the onus on now? Right? Is it on the people because the people said, okay, this is what we voted for. This is the new transition period. We say, okay, if you're good for over a year after being out, then we'll leave you alone. And if something happens, that's on us. Or we say, look, for the remainder of however long you live, you're going to be attached to a buddy system. And that's just how your freedom, that's what it looks like for you now. You can take that or leave it. You get an opportunity to exist and have a normal life with friends that are provided for you. So you don't have, you start feeling down, you have someone to talk to. You start thinking that you want to make a decision that you shouldn't make. You have someone there to wean you back and say, hey, look, you're not going to do that today. We're not doing that. So that's one solution. The other solution is to ask people and say, hey, look, John, what would you recommend? This is your question. What would you recommend? I make a task force and put you in charge of it. This is the question that you brought up. Now I want you in charge of it. You figure the system out. You come back and let's work together and say, hey, look, this is what we're going to do now and implement it to the satisfaction of John Riccatone. Right? That's how we figure this out as a community. I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to come in here and say I do, but I know how to figure it out. That's my answer.
That's great. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, anything else? All right, so I guess let me turn my mic here. Okay. Yeah, I guess you could hear me now. Sorry about that. Yeah. All right, so Otis, are you ready to ask your question? Will there be any time left for me? Oh my God, we're almost 8:30. All right, guys, you've been going on. Hey, we're warming up here. Otis, I'm so glad you were here. Ask your question from the candidates. Go ahead. Otis, I can't hear you. Let me see if I could. No, I might have muted him.
You hear me now?
I can hear
He's
you.
muted.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Now, what's the questions for?
You
who?
can ask a question of the candidates, right? You could ask them about, to look into your case. You could ask them, right, about your experience of, wrongful convictions. I know you have a lot of helping others.
Yes.
Or the homeless. Yeah. reentry, whatever your question is, you can ask them now.
My question is, how can I get the grants to build my organization? Now, once I build my organization, also that may help me reach out to more lawyers. Even though I'm looking for pro bono lawyers also, so I'm asking for support for funding from my organization to start, and also respect to get a pro bono lawyer, because the court's already said I can go back into the court, but I need a lawyer, not a civil lawyer. I need a criminal lawyer. And like the brother says, I'm working by myself, so I have no family, and I'm trying to look for them too. And I'm also in a senior citizen program / shelter, all right, which is a studio apartment. And now City Chef have not paid rent, their portion of the rent, for 6 months. So I owed it $13,000. Now I'm in debt for $9,000. Now I only get SSI, and HRA is not helping me. So I need help on that also before I get kicked out. And like I said, I have no place to go other than to go back to prison if I can't do that. So I definitely need help on these different levels.
I do a lot of work in the housing stuff, but really, that issue is slightly different. So you asked initially about getting funds, about grants to help your organization, right? So is that your main question right there, about getting the grants to help so you can afford your stuff? I know you have your own separate housing issues. That's a whole nother. We're going to do another discussion panel about housing stuff.
Okay.
Which you may come in for,
Okay.
right? But specifically, once again, to get your and once again, you are been in documentaries and all this stuff. Let Darren go.
Yes,
yeah, he's an
I did
experienced
5 more
activist.
documentary.
Darren's
So,
got a lot of connects. Let's go ahead, Darren. Knock it out the park. Let's go.
I think what you need is a civil rights lawyer, not a civil attorney, civil rights attorney, because your rights have been violated. As an advocate for disabled and the vulnerabilities that you have, and I'm sure you have some disabilities that we don't have to talk about here.
Right.
But if you want, he'll give you my personal number. I can give it to you now. I don't care. I'm not. Get a pen, write my number down, and we could have a talk, and I can see what I could do to help you.
give it to E.
I got
Okay,
you.
he's got it. You give it to him.
Yeah.
Give him my cell phone. Whatever I can do to help you, brother, I'll help you, man. I don't like injustice, and I got a lawyer on 34th Street, Julio Patilla. He does stuff with the organization pro bono, so maybe we'll give him a talk and we'll see what he says. Because I don't know the details, but it sounds to me it's a lot of civil rights, and I'm an advocate. And I'm the guy that stopped the mandates on a mask on a 23-page amicus brief. Nobody knows that here, but he knows. I fought these cases on my own, and they're like, what? Yeah, that's right, because they study the law, and that's one of the other reasons I'm running for mayor. We need a city that functions for the people and not for politics.
Yes.
That enough is enough, So, but as far as that, if I could help you, I will, brother.
Okay, we'll talk.
All right. So that's what I wanted to say. No problem.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to answer? Javon, Joe?
Yeah, I do. I didn't know if we were going in order. I thought Joe was next.
Joe,
Yes, I have a question on Curtis. So you got the program very well. How is this discontinued? I don't know what kind of reason. You got the program very good, right? The first you cited is SSI, and also our organization found your event. So it's disrupted.
Otis, can you do me a favor? When you're not speaking, can you mute? Because there's some music in the background and it's bleeding through.
Oh.
Okay. So when you're not speaking, just hit the mute. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Go ahead, Joe. I'm trying to understand. Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. Like at the very beginning, you're doing very well. You got SSI. You got a fund for your rent. But why is it disrupted, or why is it not continued anymore? So what happened? Did you do something wrong? So why is stopping the services? It's
The
very hard
city
to
actually a lot of times doesn't pay people. There's a lot of ways that they screw up. It's not any. He's not the only victim. It has nothing to do with the city is just regularly delinquent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're muted, Otis. When you speak, unmute, and then when you don't speak, mute it again. All right.
Okay, sure.
Okay, want me to answer that question?
Go ahead, Otis.
I found out when I went to court that the CMC apartments that I'm into, what they did was send the money to the wrong address. All right. When it came, and then, oh, sucks. The people that's supposed to fund me stopped it because they didn't know where the funding was going. So I had to start all over again to get the funders back. And the courts got them back again. And now they are back not paying the rent again. So that's what happened. They went to the wrong place and they hold the money and didn't pay the rent.
This happens to thousands of New Yorkers every year. The thing is that sometimes the city goes late by they don't pay for an entire year. Like, they're screwing over landlords with this. That's why landlords don't want to have City FEP's clients.
Right.
Not because the City FEP's clients are doing anything wrong, but the city, what you gonna do? Sue me? I'm the city. Yeah, you doing nothing to me. You know what I mean? And people want to get the government contract, but they don't realize that it comes with a lot of not so great things. So it has nothing to do with Otis's. It's everybody in City FEP's getting screwed. Everybody. I do a lot of work with people in the shelters. That's just the way it is.
Okay, that's me. You pay the rent to the wrong place.
No,
Then-
the city is supposed to pay the rent for him. He's not paying. The city
okay.
is.
Okay, understand. So if the city pay the rent to the wrong place, they should revise it and correct
They
it.
should,
Not
but they don't. They take a
problem,
long
you know.
time. They should, yeah, but they don't. That's why you're running for
when
mayor,
you
right? Because
first
people
come,
should be
when
doing
you
what
first
they
come
do.
out, find the pay your rent, you need to talk with HRA or the city. Let them revise it.
I did that. And they denied it. They said I gotta give them more information.
Okay. That probably is a city government's problem. They need to do more job, more accurate, and more efficiency, and more considerate, and more, how to say, down to earth. Not their mistake make people suffer for the payment. That's totally wrong. You should have a case with the HRA first, then do some other issues.
Yeah,
That's
but
message.
I'm so sorry, Joe. Sorry about this, Otis. Yeah, this is not the housing, right? This is not the housing discussion panel. This is the criminal justice discussion panel. So once again, his question was to get him funding or a grant or support for his legal problems, as in terms of his exoneration or for his work to help the people who are coming out and readjusting society after coming out of prison, which actually Otis is a specialist in, re-entry.
So as you're confused, what do you do something wrong in criminal case?
No, he's asking for funds to help his. He has a not-for-profit organization where he's trying to help people with re-entry. So he's looking for a grant.
And the pro bono lawyer, that's directly to try to help you.
That's one of the things he's looking for. Yeah. Do you have any connections?
Yes. Yeah, that's probably a lot of pro bono lawyers there.
Okay, so you
I
have no
think what
specific.
he's
Okay,
trying
that's
to
okay.
say is he's trying to ask you if you have any resources that you know of that you could connect Otis to so that he could get these grants and stuff. Joe. And
Like you can, if a criminal case, when you go to criminal court, the judge, if the judge see you don't have a lawyer,
You mean like
they
a public
may
defender?
appoint you a criminal lawyer. It's my understanding. Or you need to choose which one is better. When you before you go to criminal court, you can choose one. Then go to court. The court appoint you another. I can't hear you, Curtis, Otis.
No, that's an answer. I appreciate that. That was a pretty good answer there. So, I mean, it's an answer, right? I'm not saying it's the best answer, but it is an answer, right? Yeah? All right, so let's go to Javon. Are you ready?
Yeah. So, basically, this is regarding just reentry funding programs for reentry. Is this question what it's pertaining to? Am I correct?
Yeah.
So basically, Otis, first of all, I wanted to say, wow, I'm absolutely inspired by your story. And without having the entire story that you're giving me, but taking it with a grain of salt and saying, hey, this situation sounds unfair in totality, it requires investigation, and it definitely requires some programs that are focused on ensuring that we actually have a proper reentry system in place, because you shouldn't be having issues with, first of all, that you've had documentaries made about you and you're having a hard time living somewhere. People have made money over your story and you're having a hard time living somewhere. So you definitely should be in a program where you actually are letting people know how it should be ran. So giving you my information is the best thing I can do for you right now, besides praying about it. But I want to work with you hand in hand and make sure that this problem goes away. So I'm going to make sure that DJ F7 and make sure you and I stay connected.
I appreciate that.
And also, I'm dealing with some housing issues. I know we're not going to address that now, but we can address that together as well. All right. I will go to court with you right now. All right. We'll just leave it at that.
Cool, Otis. You can ask for any follow-ups or any question. Are you done or?
Otis,
Sorry, yeah.
I'm not a lawyer,
Oh.
so I can't do more help. But I do
understand,
think GTR and Darius, they can help you to solve all the problem. My heart always with you. If you need some other help, if I can offer help, I'm willing to help you.
All right, Otis.
Anytime, just let me know if you really need help. Okay?
I appreciate that, Joe. That shows
Okay,
you have a
thank
good
you.
heart, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, did they answer questions? Otis, was there anything that you wanted clarification on, or is we will be discussing it further? Yeah, go ahead.
It's all right. Long as they contact you and you contact me to connect with them.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I'm going to use my question right now to tell you guys. Actually, after this meeting, I was going to talk about how we could work that together. Now, I know that right now Otis Johnson tried to get a grant, and he was denied because he didn't have a website. And one thing that might be, I know you guys might have to check with your finance or campaign board, but one thing that might actually help pay for my own right, because I'm actually begging in the streets because my work is not funded either, maybe you guys could actually get an ad right on his website, you know what I mean, during your campaign, and then maybe that could also help fund, right, the cost he needs to get for his domain name. Not only that, right, but also we could do a fundraiser later on. Once again, Otis Johnson is a huge draw. And also that money could also go to help you fund your campaign and also help Otis Johnson, who's also dealing with a lot of hardship himself. I want to put some money in this guy's hands. He's suffered enough as far as I'm concerned. They got him going out trying to face off against crazies in the park. Oh my God. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. This guy should be taken care of, not thrown to the wolves. I mean, so thank you so much, Darren and Joe and Javon, right? Yeah, this is the humanism we need. Earlier, I showed actually, I'm gonna show the screen one more time, and I'm not really mad at. I like Anthony Dolce, I like the people there. The establishment politicians who are being recognized by the media don't want to talk to the actual victims. Don't want to talk to the people who are affected. They just want to talk with the millionaire friends, and I'm sick of it. So. It's time for a new. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe, because I have the nonprofit. Maybe we could put it there. We'll put some info on the nonprofit, the advocate site for him.
Yeah.
It's a nonprofit.
And we could do a fundraiser before the holidays, right? Yeah, the holidays coming up. Maybe a Christmas party or something that make Otis, he could speak there or something. We could split the money. Maybe we'd bring people to your fundraiser. You know what I mean? We're going to have some, instead of having...
I do a lot of stuff for the holidays with Toys for Tots. I did for years, Jesus, up in Long Island and everything. My nephew works with the Major Albright that does this, so, yeah, maybe we could do something there because I like to do things for the holidays for kids. I start
Yeah.
with Thanksgivings. Yeah, but this is important. That's what the advocacy has been about. Mainstreaming disabled Americans back into mainstream America.
Yeah,
And
I'm gonna leverage my whole coalition to help you, Otis. And by the way, didn't forget about you,
Okay.
Steve, my Asian brother. I
All
didn't
right.
forget about you
So,
either.
what,
And also, we're helping out John. I'm sorry, go Otis. Go ahead.
okay, just I like my last thing I like to say is if you want to, you can go to my documentary, Otis Johnson, My Life After 44 Years in Prison. It got also of over 15 million sponsors, views, or whatever you call that
I
thing.
can't believe. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry. I can't believe, Otis, that didn't help you and change your life. It's very disappointing. We have to look into that,
Okay.
DJ. We have to look into why
15
that
million views
is.
should have made 15 million views should have made about $15,000.
I know it.
Otis, you even get $2
He
off of that.
should be.
I didn't
He
get a
should be.
dime.
They get a
No.
dime. Yeah, well,
He
And,
should have. He should have.
and the
Listen. He should.
people that made the documentary went out the country.
Like Bill de
Yeah.
Blasio ran with the 850 million. No surprise there.
yo, it's so bad, man. They just using us for everything. Yeah, thank God we have other candidates like Darren, candidates like Javon, candidates like Joe to
Well,
try to stand,
well,
try to
we'll
make
see
a
what.
change.
I don't know
Why
what
don't
I could
we-
do to fix it,
why don't
but I
we
tell you
do-
what, you can count on me to try.
Yo, oh, why don't we do a campaign to bring awareness to that?
Yeah.
Look, I got
Thank
my
you, Otis.
hands full, bro. No one's like, I'm begging. I just got off. I almost took the whole entire MAGA world over to National Action Network, right? Because to try to help the Democrats get back into shape. Because instead of helping Otis Johnson, who showed up at Kamala Harris's office, they spent $1 billion on celebrities. If Kamala Harris had brought out the wrongfully incarcerated and said, you know what? I screwed up. I'm going to actually help poor people. They would have won. Nope.
Wrongfully incarcerated should have brought him millions of dollars in lawsuit. This is what I'm trying to figure out here. I can't comprehend why this man, this citizen, was screwed over like that. It's plaguing me now.
Steven screwed. Otis is screwed.
Oh, Stephen, I want to help Stephen too.
Instead of getting an award, he got locked up. What the?
Well, that's it. We'll find out about that, and we'll talk about that. But first, the thing that's important is winning the seat, and then we can make all the changes necessary. The good thing about now, the political climate has shifted back to the people. We sent a message on Election Day. We're taking back our country. And I've said this, and I've been saying it, we're going to take it back one city at a time. We're going to take those blue states and flip them red, white, and blue. I said it on your show because enough is enough. And too much is kind of a lot. There are a lot of great people in this city with a lot of ideas that can bring new and amazing changes. And you know what my administration will be about, and that's what it's going to be about, making New York great again. And my mission, my committee is to make New York safe again. And I started that last year. We've taken on a big endeavor. And we're fighting a political machine. They don't want to give up New York. They want to hold New York.
Sometimes it's harder for one can to be heard, even with one with such a storied background as yourself. I saw the SAG-AFTRA Cup. I think that you also did work with Sopranos or something like that. You were also on the set. You have a very extensive history.
I helped disabled actors got work, and you know what that did, right? That stopped my work.
Well,
they don't like good guys.
That's what happens, right? Yeah, they'll put in someone what you asked for, but then you got to pay the price. They do that to me all the time.
Yeah.
But
well, the production companies liked me because they said this guy's giving up days of his own work. I said I'm sharing them. I'm not giving them up. I'm sharing. There are other people that are in the union, and they should be just as qualified. So listen, I transported them to the set. So they couldn't believe it.
So we're gonna have.
I picked them up and brought them to work and took them home for nothing.
So a coalition of candidates, right? Maybe a stronger voice to take on an issue than one candidate, and we can actually take on the mainstream candidates and force them to respond to certain issues that have been ignored, like Otis Johnson, like
in 2019.
Don't want to talk about, right?
In 2019, I started a coalition of candidates, but you know what happened? Some of them started bailing out and started new coalitions, and they started going establishment way. And my other folks, we don't roll like that,
Well,
you know. So maybe we could do it again, and
I'm ready. And just so you know, next week we're going to actually have a talk on congestion pricing in City of Yes.
Yeah,
hopefully-
well, that's gonna stop. I thought it was done. I thought the court case won, but obviously, as mayor, I'm shutting that down
mid-January.
because we know why that is. That
Yeah.
was put in place to cover their ass for the migrant invasion. That was unconstitutional, and they gave that money instead of giving it to Otis or other homeless New Yorkers, homeless veterans. They're charging. They gave it to veterans. They gave it to migrants. They threw veterans out of these hotels. Don't get me started with that.
Yeah, so mid-January
but-
we're also gonna when they raise the price in the subways, we're gonna have a one on the MTA and corruption and subway hikes. February 2nd, I think we'll have our last of the series right before the petitioning starts to try to have one with the educational. We just had a coalition of candidates actually support Corey Edens and myself trying to get a meeting with the CUNY chancellor.
Well,
And
if they have a special election, I don't think we need petitions. If she doesn't get out, she's got to put him out.
So
And they're
after-
debating right now. Inside trackers are telling me that he's going to resign. He's waiting till after the holidays. People ain't going to wait till after Christmas. New Yorkers got to start yelling now. We want him out.
A
And
lot
we
of
want
people
it now.
probably don't know what he, people that are politically savvy who've been around. I know he's talking about special election. A lot of times someone leaves the office early. Then what happens is someone else gets shoveled in by special election. Then what happens is that they can run as an incumbent.
Well,
And
she's
this
got
is
to
the way
pick the
establishment
first
plays
5
their
that are
games.
out there.
Yeah.
She has
So-
to pick the first 5 that came out.
So we're going
That's
to do
what
the
she has to
strategizing
do.
afterwards, right? In the post show, we're probably going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Okay.
This is not being promoted by the establishment media. This is actually being highly suppressed. You'll see a lot more casual stuff that gets a lot more views. That's just a lot
course.
less relevant in people's lives. It is what it is. It's up to you folks. I'm going to end it here, and then afterwards we'll have our own little discussion about how we can strategize and put together these fundraisers and the website and other things to help your
Sure.
campaigns, right? Yeah, and your issues. All right, so let me
Right.
end the stream. Thanks again for